Google Lit Trips are a great way for students to interact with geography and literature at the same time. But there's a lot of different ways that we can use them in other disciplines as well. We're going to use Google Maps because sometimes Google Earth isn't available for all students, and because we have a little bit more control with it this way. So here's what we do. You would want to be signed in to your Google account, and I'm just going to click on my Maps app and open that there. And then you can see here on the side it says My Maps. I'm going to click on My Maps, and then I just click on Create. I'm going to call my maps baseball parks because just for the sake of this tutorial we're going to visit all of the Major League Baseball parks that I've been to, and so I'm going to add that into the description. And click Save. Okay, so I grew up in Southwest Missouri. Of course I have been to Kauffman Stadium. And then if you didn't notice what I just did, I searched for it by clicking up here in the search bar, and then it took me directly to it. Okay, this green marker, that belongs to Google. That does not belong to me, but what I'm going to do is click on it and then click Add to Map. Now it does belong to me. Alright, so because the Royals are blue, I am going to go over here and click on this little pink can and turn my marker blue. I could also change my icon if I wanted to. Alright, now also I have been to Busch Stadium. So it's over here. Now I am going to zoom in here, and instead of searching for Busch Stadium this time, I'm going to show you how you can add your own marker without searching for it first, because where your students are visiting in if it's in literature, it may or may not exist. So now I know it's in this relative location down here by the Mississippi River, and I'm going to click where it says Add Marker, and then you can see that my cursor now has changed into a plus sign or a hashtag. So I am going to click there, and I'm going to change where it said point to into Busch Stadium. Alright, now right here I think a great idea to have students interact with my map is to ask them questions, so that way they can interact with the map, but then they can also have discussions with the other classmates and that sort of thing. So if I'm wanting my students to have discussions, I'm not going to ask fact-based questions here. I'm going to ask questions that make them think about critical thinking, things that might be different or whatever, or will just spark discussion. And so just because I'm going to do something very quickly here, I'm going to ask a question like, how could moving the stadium bring in a larger fan base? Alright, and then I'm going to hit Save. Now I'm going to zoom out, and you can see that I've got my 2 places that I've been to. And somewhere else I've been is Petco Park. So I'm going to search for that one. I'm going to add this one to my map. And I'm going to go back in and edit. I'm going to add in a picture. So I click where it says Add Image or Video. And I'm going to search Petco Park. And there it is. I click right here and I'm going to hit select. Notice that it also says the image URL. I could also put in YouTube videos. The image URL, it needs to be an image that has been on Google+. So if you had an image that you'd shared on Google+, you could put that in there. I'm just going to hit select, and then I'm going to save that. So now you can see that. And I've also been to Yankee Stadium. So here we go. And I'm going to add this one to my map as well. Now let me zoom way back out here so we can see all of the places that I have been right here. Now there's more that I can do than just put in locations. I can also add in lines and travel. So let's say I'm going to add in a line and I'm going to add in a driving route. I want to see how long it takes to get from Kansas City to St. Louis. And did you see that my driving route just appeared there? Over here it shows, and I could get my directions. I could change my mode. Okay, I've zoomed into Petco Park here, and I am going to click where it says draw a line, and then where it says add line or shape, I'm going to select that, and I am just going to trace the perimeter of the park right here. And then you can see whenever I get to the final where I would connect the dots, my cursor changes into a hand. If I click on that, it recognizes it as a polygon. So I am going to call it Petco Polygon. You know, really creative there. And then let's say I'm going to ask my students, what is the square footage of Petco Park? Okay, now this isn't a great question. I'm going to hit save and you're going to see why. Because look right here, Google's already telling me the amount of space that this takes up. Now, I asked what the square footage is. They would have to convert that. So that's okay. They're not going to be using their highest levels of critical thinking when they do that. But that's all right. It's still a skill that they need. I'm going to X out of that. Now, let me show you something else that we could do to also spark discussion. I can take my polygon and I can move it. So now I can see the square footage of Petco Park in relation to other areas. Now, in comparison to, let's see, the zoo is up there, the San Diego Zoo. Petco Park compared to the San Diego Zoo and this park area. Now, which one's bigger? All right, so we could have a discussion around that. But here's something else that we could do. We can't move that very far, and we can't really see anything on that because it's such a small area whenever you're really looking at the entire Earth here. So here's a question that used to come up on trivia games and things that I would ask my students. They would say, what is the largest state in the United States? And everyone would say Texas, but the answer is actually Alaska. And then as the teacher, I would pull down this map and say, look how big Alaska is. It's obviously bigger than Texas. So let's draw a line around it. And this is going to be very quick. It's going to be very relative because there are so many outlying islands that I'm going to get just as much sea in some of these as I'm going to get land. Go up here. See, I didn't even go all the way down to the end. All right, and then now I'm going to connect that, and I'm going to call it Alaska. Save. Okay, now let's go ahead and bring Alaska down here and put it on top of Texas. And so now we can see how big it really is. This would have been the better thing for me to do as a teacher. Now, whenever I'm showing this, I'm seeing, yes, it does take up all of Texas, most of Oklahoma, and even some of Mexico, but it doesn't look nearly as big as it does whenever you're looking at those two in comparison. However, when I bring this back up here, it does take that shape again and that size. So now I can have a discussion with my students of why does it appear so big whenever we're looking at the globe and looking at this view, and why does it look so small whenever we're looking at another view. So now I can share this by clicking share. I can change it so that it is not private, it's open to anyone with the link, or so that it's public on the web, whichever one I want to do. I'm just going to choose anyone with the link so they can view, and hit save. Now I can embed that into my website so my students can interact with it. And then they would just find it on my website, and then they could go to all of these different places by over here at the side clicking on each one. So that is your Google Lit Trip alternative. Remember, whenever you're doing this, to make those questions elicit higher order thinking skills, so the students are involved in critical thinking whenever they are answering the questions, and so that they are holding discussions about the locations that they are actually visiting.